This Birkin bag at Hermes boutique will cost you 38,000 USD. But what is the real cost out of the factory? Today, I'm going to break it down in front of you, step by step.
Hermès is officially in meltdown mode. The French luxury powerhouse, long considered the gold standard in elite fashion, has just been caught red-handed in what might be the most explosive scandal the industry has ever seen. We're not talking about a minor slip-up or a PR blunder. No, this is a full-blown existential crisis that threatens to unravel the entire $300 billion designer handbag empire from the inside out. You know that phrase, made in France? The one Hermès slaps proudly on every one of its $20,000 Birkin bags to justify the jaw-dropping price tag? Well, what if I told you that might be nothing more than a marketing fairy tale? Because now, mounting evidence suggests that your so-called artisanal Birkin, the one you had to beg, bribe, or wait years for, may have actually been stitched together in the very same Chinese factories that crank out $400 knockoffs by the hour. We're talking identical thread, near-matching leather, and shockingly similar craftsmanship. And if that's true, it means the myth of luxury is cracking wide open. Here's the real kicker. Hermès isn't trying to fix the problem or come clean. Nope. They've launched a full-scale lawsuit against the very whistleblowers who pulled back the velvet curtain. That's right, Hermès is going to war with the manufacturers and insiders who dared to expose the truth. The irony? They're not denying the factories exist, they're just furious that someone told the world about them. So buckle up. Because this isn't just a scandal, it's a full-on fashion industry earthquake. Think fake exclusivity, global supply chain secrets, and $1 billion brands scrambling to silence the mess. This is messier than a toddler with a Sharpie and a limited edition Kelly bag, and we're just getting started. For decades, Hermès didn't just sell handbags, they sold us a dream. A pristine, carefully curated fantasy of old-world craftsmanship. Picture this, stoic French artisans in crisp white coats, hunched over flawless leather in sun-dappled Parisian ateliers, stitching each Birkin by hand with whispered precision. Candlelight glows in the background, violins play softly, and each bag is blessed by centuries of tradition. That was the image, a romantic illusion that justified the eye-watering price tags, the endless wait lists, and the smug exclusivity that came with owning an Hermès bag. But now? That fantasy has been shredded faster than a counterfeit label in a customs bin. Thanks to a bombshell leak involving confidential contracts, insider interviews, and factory reports, the truth has finally come out, and it's uglier than anyone imagined. According to whistleblowers and former supply chain partners, nearly 80% of these so-called handcrafted luxury items are actually produced in, you guessed it, China. That's right. The very same region Hermès swore was reserved only for knockoffs and dupes is allegedly where most of their high-end inventory is being made. And we're not just talking about a few zippers or extra materials. We're talking entire production processes. The leather gets cut overseas, the panels get shaped overseas, the signature stitching, the very thing Hermès boasts about in every press release, is executed overseas. By the time these parts arrive in France, most of the work is already done. All Hermès does is attach a clasp, maybe stitch a handle, slap on a Made in Paris label, and voila! Your $20,000 Birkin is ready to be worshipped by fashionistas who have no idea they've been sold a reheated lie. In fact, it's the luxury equivalent of microwaving a frozen pizza and calling yourself a Michelin-starred chef. Except instead of pizza, it's premium calfskin. Instead of dinner, it's generational wealth. And instead of transparency, Hermès is banking on your blind trust and your willingness to never ever read the fine print. A $600 bag, yes, $600 to make, was flipped and sold for a jaw-dropping $38,000. That's not a typo. That's nearly the price of a brand new luxury car, all for something that costs less to produce than a mid-range iPhone. And when you break it down, the numbers get even more insulting. The leather? It's not some rare, hand-massaged unicorn hide sourced from secret ranches in the Alps. No, it's shockingly similar in quality to what you'd find hanging on a clearance rack at a Coach outlet store. Durable, yes, but nowhere near the mythical level Hermès claims. Now let's talk about the hardware, that shiny clasp and metalwork that supposedly takes hours to craft. In reality, factory insiders say it's mass-produced in bulk and then polished up just enough to look expensive. We're talking metals cheaper than the materials in a Zara necklace, something you'd buy as a fashion impulse at the mall and expect to tarnish within a year. Yet Hermès is out here charging more than most people's annual salary for it. But here's the real kicker, the twist that makes this more infuriating than ironic. Hermès isn't even trying to hide it anymore. They're not scrambling to cover up the production shift or the downgraded materials. They're doing the opposite. They're leaning into it. Boldly. Brazenly. Why? Because they know exactly what they're selling, and it's not craftsmanship. It's not quality. It's status. It's the illusion of prestige. They're banking, literally banking, on the fact that consumers care more about that tiny H-shaped logo than the actual construction of the product it's stamped on. In their eyes, the bag doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't even need to be luxurious. It just needs to say Hermès. And as long as people keep lining up for that fantasy, Hermès will keep cashing in, no matter what's actually in the bag. Then, things took a turn that no one saw coming. TikTok, the platform known for its viral dances and random cat videos, became the battleground for a massive scandal that would shake Hermès to its very core. In a move that can only be described as accidental transparency, Chinese factory workers, those anonymous hands behind the so-called luxury, started posting videos of Birkins mid-production. And these weren't just any casual clips. These videos exposed the raw truth, same leather, same stitching, and here's the kicker, zero Hermès logos. The factory workers, casually documenting their workdays for a quick viral moment, unknowingly revealed a production process that shattered the entire Hermès myth. One employee, probably not realizing the magnitude of their words, spilled the most damning detail of all. We make the bags, ship them to France, they add the stamp, and voila! Suddenly it's artisan French luxury. Yes, you heard that right. What was presented to the world as a bespoke masterpiece, an item meticulously crafted by skilled French artisans, was, in reality, little more than a cleverly marketed assembly line product. The only thing giving it its elite status was the Hermès logo that was slapped on at the last minute, and what did Hermès do in response? Did they come clean, admit their deception, and change their practices? Of course not. Instead, they did what big corporations often do when they're backed into a corner. They decided to sue the Chinese factories into silence. Hermès attempted to suppress the truth, to shut down the whistleblowers who had exposed the very heart of their operations. They filed legal complaints, demanding that these factories cease all production and stop revealing the inner workings of the brand. But in the digital age, information spreads faster than lawsuits can stifle it. The thing is, the internet never forgets. Despite Hermès' attempts to erase the videos and silence the workers, the damage had already been done. The truth was out there, and it wasn't going anywhere. TikTok clips, along with screenshots, reposts, and commentary, circulated endlessly, forever etched into the digital memory of the internet. And then there's the resale market, a space where luxury items live and breathe. Those same Birkins, once marketed as pristine, rare, French-made treasures, now had a blemish that could never be scrubbed away. Resale prices began to drop, as savvy buyers and sellers alike understood that the mystique had been broken. Authenticity was now in question, and with it, the demand for these bags in the secondary market. Hermès may have tried to shut it down, but there's no undoing the damage to their reputation. Once the illusion is shattered, it's hard to piece it back together. Picture this, Hermès, the epitome of luxury, suddenly finds itself scrambling to delete evidence and cover up its tracks. The company, desperate to protect its pristine image, filed lawsuits against its own manufacturers for defamation. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly does that mean? Well, in layman's terms, it translates to this: how dare you expose the truth about where we're actually making our bags? Hermès had spent years cultivating a perfect, almost mythical narrative around its products, convincing consumers that each Birkin bag was the result of painstaking craftsmanship from skilled artisans in France, working long hours to create these coveted items. But now, the very factories that helped produce those bags were coming forward with the truth, and Hermès wasn't having it. But here's the real kicker, the math doesn't lie. Take the Birkin, for instance. If it takes about 20 hours for an artisan to hand-stitch just one Birkin, then how on earth could Hermès have possibly sold $2.3 billion worth of bags in a single year? Do the math, and it quickly adds up to a number that doesn't even remotely fit the luxury narrative they've sold us. For comparison, if one artisan spent 20 hours stitching a single bag, it would take them hundreds of years to produce the amount of bags Hermès reportedly sold in just 1 year. So what's the logical conclusion? Either they've somehow cloned their artisans at a rate that defies reality, or, and this is the most likely option, that glossy Made in France tag is nothing more than a straight-up fairy tale. A clever marketing ploy that's been spun for decades to convince you, the consumer, that you're holding a piece of art rather than a mass-produced luxury item that's been outsourced to factories halfway across the world. As these facts start to surface, it raises an even more uncomfortable question. How many other high-end brands are guilty of playing the same game? Could we be looking at a luxury industry built on half-truths, misleading labels, and questionable business practices? What happens when consumers start to realize that luxury isn't always synonymous with craftsmanship, and that they've been paying a premium for something that's not as exclusive or unique as they've been led to believe? Here's where it gets juicy. Celebs like Kylie Jenner and Cardi B flaunt Birkins like trophies, but insiders claim half those bags are gifted or even fakes. Why? Because you're the real target. Every IG post, every paparazzi shot of a Birkin in the wild, it's all a $20,000 ad. And the kicker? Even influencers admit they'd rather buy a dupe than drop a down payment on a bag. 2 years ago, a Birkin was an investment. Now, resellers are sweating. Through Tanner's expose, prices dropped faster than a fake Gucci in the rain. Collectors are stuck with bags that cost more than a Tesla and value less than a used Honda. One reseller confessed, "Clients are asking, is this really from France? They never cared before. Hermès isn't alone. Chanel's 10,000 flaps Medain Samchin factories. 10,000 flaps Medain Samchin factories 300 replicas. Prada's Italian bags? Titched in Romania. The entire industry's built on one rule: never let the customer see the kitchen. But now that the curtain's pulled back, can any brand survive the truth? So here's the real question. If your Birkin says made in France but actually came from Shenzhen, did you pay for quality or just the illusion of exclusivity? Drop a comment. Would you still buy a Hermes bag knowing this? Smash that like button if you're done falling for luxury's lies. And subscribe, because next week we're exposing how Rolex watches are made in a mall kiosk in Ohio. Just kidding.